just go with it. Whatever strikes you as most interesting for you to talk about that the listeners would be interested in hearing, we'll go with that.
All right, here we go.
WLFE DB Radio.
Are you ready?
Live from the Metal Mayhem Studios in Rochester, New York.
We are gold.
And heard around the world by metalheads just like you. This is Metal Mayhem ROC.
Heavy metal music.
Your weekly dose of metal music, interviews, album reviews, news, and more. Want to be part of the show? Send us a message through our website, metalmayhemroc.com, or hit us up on Facebook and Twitter. Search Metal Mayhem ROC.
It's getting nice and heavy.
And now, welcome tonight's host, John the Vernomatic Verno.
Good evening, everybody. The Vernomatic here, and welcome to another edition of Metal Mayhem ROC. Tonight, our guest is New York Times best-selling philosophy author. Books include the series, the pop culture series, The Simpsons, Seinfeld, The Matrix. Well, he's here today to talk about his new book, a heavy book, The Meaning of Metallica, Ride the Lyrics. Let's welcome to Metal Mayhem ROC heavy metal scholar, Professor Bill Irwin. Hey, Bill, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Vernomatic. Great to be with you. I know you know your metal, man. I've been listening. I'm ready to talk.
Oh, good. Great book. Just came out on Tuesday the 19th. Metallica, The Meaning of Metal, Ride the Lyrics. Great title. Goes right into what you wanted to, talk about. Got tons of questions, gonna dive right into it. First and foremost, how long have you been a Metallica fan? Why Metallica? And why now on this book?
Well, I'd like to say I go back as far as you, Vernomatic, but I know you go all the way back to Kill 'Em All. I go back to Ride the Lightning, 1984, okay?
Okay.
We know years and months make a difference in claiming OG Metallica fan status, so I tip my hat to you there. I go back to 1984, when I'm a budding young metalhead, Ozzy, Sabbath, Priest, that kind of stuff. Hanging out with my buddy Joe, we're Beavis and Butthead before there was Beavis and Butthead. And Joe is a step ahead of me, as he often is, and gets a copy of Ride the Lightning. And, he tapes that for me. And as we did back in the day, I had the cassette tape and played that through, and then bought my own copy. And really, it was like nothing else I had heard at that time. Faster, heavier. And in many ways deeper than a lot of other metal out there. So, it really struck a chord with me right off the bat.
I do want to share, for this presentation, I went into the Vernomatic vault and I dug up some chestnuts. Here's me and Kirk, the day of the Metallica Master of Puppets show up here in Rochester. And this one is a good one. This is Cliff, Kirk, and Ron Stein, the owner of the Lakeshore Record Exchange up here in Rochester, when they were in town doing the Kill 'Em All album. And the last little one, I wasn't around for that one, but the last one is, this is a good one. This is the band pulling up to Lakeshore Record Exchange. This is the wagon that they drove from San Francisco in. And there's Cliff with his cut off denim, Lars, James in the back. And the guy you can't see was one of the only few hanger-oners. Yeah. It was one of their friends. So
that is awesome. Lots of great history in Rochester where you are with the recording of that album. And awesome stuff.
Ride the Lightning Tour. Did you have a chance to see it?
Did not. I was a little on the young side. I know I've heard listening to you that you almost went to the show in Buffalo where they got snowed in.
Yeah, it's still a sore spot.
Yeah, ironically, I could have possibly seen that tour because I was a fan of Wasp at the time before I knew of Metallica, and they were basically opening for Wasp or, maybe co-headlining, right?
Yep.
And Wasp, I believe on that tour, played Lemoore in Brooklyn, where I ended up seeing lots of shows. Never Metallica; they were too big by the time I got there. But I saw Slayer on Rain and Blood, and
Nice, nice.
Overkill, and Anthrax a bunch of times at Lemoore. So it could have accidentally happened that I went to see Wasp and saw this new band Metallica, but it didn't happen that way for me.
Are you a native New York?
Yeah,
New Yorkan?
yeah. So I'm from Yonkers, right outside New York City, and so yeah, we'd see the shows in the New York metro area. And Lemoore was called the rock capital of Brooklyn,
Yeah.
sort of famous East Coast place.
I'm 54. How old are you, Bill?
So I'm 52. So
Okay.
yeah, you got me by a couple of years, and man, I don't know. It always seems like when you're into metal, the golden age was just a little bit before you came of age. At least that's the way it always seems to me.
You know what? I'm 2 years ahead of you. Well, there are some guys a couple years ahead of me that, saw some of those late 70s Priest tours
Yes.
and, Maiden on, Killers in their first album.
Yeah.
So, there's dudes 2 years younger than you that are saying, oh, you saw Master of Puppets. So,
That's right. That's right. But that's just the way it always looks,
all right. So you have your metal credentials. Props to you.
All right.
Let's talk about the book again. Tell us about it. Why now? It's fascinating. Go ahead.
Yeah. So the book is called The Meaning of Metallica, subtitle Ride the Lyrics. And it's the only book out there. Lots of Metallica books, lots of great Metallica books. I think I've read them all. Friends with some of the authors even. But you generally see sort of background, biography, great storytelling. In some cases, you see some catalogs of the songs where they explain some of the background that's been released here and there in interviews. What I do is look at the songs in many cases line by line and analyze the lyrics. And this is something that I've been doing since probably I am 14, because I like to say that Metallica brought me two things that lots of guys my age, particularly back then, shied away from, and that is poetry and therapy. From the beginning, I probably got into poetry by looking at song lyrics, and in particular, the best among them, in my opinion, Metallica's. And although I was a goofy Beavis and Butthead type kid, I was also, the brooding existentialist type kid with a crisis about meaning and what's it all about. And quite frankly, Fade to Black was the first song that really spoke to me. And although James didn't write that from a place of suicidal despair himself, he puts himself in the mindset of somebody who really is feeling those feelings. And just listening to it all the way through, inspired me to keep going. And Metallica's music and lyrics are always about fighting forward and not giving up and finding hope. And it really did that for me. And so they've been the soundtrack of my life, at least since I'm 14, all the way through to the most recent album, which isn't that recent anymore. And they've always been a source of inspiration and therapy and poetry for me. And so this is my sort of tribute to that. I know that a lot of fans take the lyrics very seriously, as I do. Not everybody. Some people really just tune into the music, and that's fine too. And other musical artists have gotten very serious treatment. I mean, Bob Dylan gets the Nobel Prize, and lots of books written about Dylan's lyrics, and all props to him for that. But metal music in particular, just it seems to get dissed over and over. I mean, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame or whatever it is, and
Grammys.
So here I am saying, this is really first-rate stuff that needs to be taken seriously.
Did you find that you pulled that out of other bands as well? Like that's your go-to when you look, like, personally, when I listen to something, it's usually the drums and the guitar that gets me. Did you pull that from other bands?
Sure.
Like the lyrical direction, that's the hook that gets you?
Well, yeah, I mean, certainly without good music, the lyrics won't do very much for me. So like you take like Leonard Cohen, great Canadian artist, who's got great lyrics, but the music doesn't really get me. And, he's certainly not metal, but I don't, restrict myself necessarily to metal. But yeah, from early on, I mean, like Ozzy and Sabbath, I mean, I was tuned into their lyrics, and a lot of that really spoke to me even before I came to Metallica. And you know, that's always been the case for me. I mean, sure, the guitar and the drums and all of that has to be there, but bad lyrics can ruin a good song for me.
What kind of research did you do for this? Was it just relying on your memory? Did interviews, or just everything?
Yeah,
just
well,
50, 40 years, 35 years of following them.
right. So in some way, I've been writing the book in my head since I'm 14.
Yeah.
But you know, more seriously, I mean, I think I've read every book on Metallica that's been written, and there are quite a few at this point, and lots of published interviews and all that kind of thing. It's really a lot of having listened to the songs hundreds, thousands of times. And that was in some way an obstacle, because I didn't want to ruin the songs for myself by listening to them repeatedly just to dissect for the sake of doing this. And so I did something, I just kind of happened on doing this. I ended up memorizing the lyrics so that I could sing them for myself. And I've got nobody's idea of a good voice. Not only can I not play an instrument, but I can't carry a tune. But that was my way of really sort of reverse engineering the lyrics for myself that way, thinking of how they would be sung and where they're coming from. And yeah, I mean, I did reach out to Metallica, you know, management and such, requesting an interview. And I was treated very kindly and professionally, and it just didn't end up happening. And yeah, I can understand that. A lot of artists don't want to comment on or even be interviewed about their lyrics.
Yeah, we could understand that.
Sure.
Was there any songs that didn't make the cut? How do you decide which songs to profile? And
yeah,
let's talk about the songs you did profile. Let's get into some of that.
Yeah. So, I mean, first of all, it really covers the whole catalog from Kill 'Em All, where I don't talk a lot about Kill 'Em, but songs do make it there all the way up to Hardwired to Self-Destruct. And I haven't done a count on it, but I would say half of Metallica's songs get at least some sort of mention and discussion. Other songs get elaborate line by line analysis and dissection. And so what the book does is it doesn't catalog album by album, song by song, but rather goes thematically and looks for songs that sort of speak to one another or continue a theme, right? So the first chapter in the book deals with religion, and so I have a lengthy dissection and analysis of creeping death, into Leper Messiah, into the God that failed, that sort of thing, right? Second chapter deals with addiction, and so I'm looking at like Master of Puppets, Low Man's Lyric, Fixer, and other songs that really speak to that.
When I sat down to start reading it, and you know, I'm going through a creeping death, and I say this jokingly, Bill. I'm like, I had flashbacks to like freshman year college and the literature course I had to take, and because of the interpretation. But then I started getting into it, and I remember when the Leper Messiah part came out, because back in like '86, with the Jim and Tammy Faye Baker situation and the self-proclaimed, when Metallica called, that was the CNN years, and the whole story behind Jim and Tammy Baker. And after all these years, I still learned something, and I'm like, hey, he's onto something. Do you ever surprise yourself after the thousands of times you've heard these songs through this research, if you will, of this book, that you saw it in a different light? You're like, hey, you know, that's a little different. You know, you got a different interpretation.
Right. So one song that stood out for me that way was the Unforgiven Two. I've got some analysis of the whole trilogy of Unforgiven songs. And I mean, I've listened to that song hundreds of times, you know, maybe not thousands in the case of that one, since it's on reload, but I've listened to it hundreds of times, and it wasn't until I started really dissecting it and trying to link it with the first and the third Unforgivens that it became clear that by the end, the narrator ends up killing the woman who he's in love with. And if you take a look at the printed lyrics, it becomes very clear, right? That dead sure she'll be there. Her eyes are closed. She'll never love again. I mean, it really is very grim, sort of tongue in cheek. And without, I mean, when you think of metal, you don't usually think subtle, but Hetfield is really very subtle and cagey at times with some of the lyrical analysis.
I remember as a kid, you would sit there, you had nothing else to do. You dissect the album, you look at the cover, read the lyrics. Is that still part of your go-to? The reading the lyrics? Like, do you dissect the lyrics? And do you ever listen to a song without reading the lyrics, but try to, get your own interpretation by just listening to it?
No, right. I mean, you and I are from the same school with that, right? I mean, you'd buy an LP and it would cost you $10 or whatever, and that was some, hard-earned money, and you're not buying another one maybe anytime too quickly, and just take it all in, the artwork, the liner notes, the lyrics, all of that. So, I mean, that's part of why I maybe became so entranced with lyrics early on, is that so many albums had them printed with it, right? And I remember, the original pressings of Kill 'Em All didn't come with the lyrics, and it wasn't until they reissued it through Elektra that they put the lyrics out with it. And so there were lots of songs I had the lyrics wrong on.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever read the lyrics to Kill 'Em All.
They're better than you might think, right? I mean, and case in point is, with all due respect to Dave Mustaine, you compare the lyrics to the Four Horsemen to Mechanics, and you get a sense of the aptitude that Hetfield had for writing lyrics early on, and even on Kill 'Em All, I mean, which has lots of sort of fantasy sort of lyrics with Phantom Lord, and I mean, the Four Horsemen is straight out of the Book of the Apocalypse, but there's a lot of that sort of thing, but it really is done about as well as it's ever been done, and really avoids the typical heavy metal cliches. I mean, the only one that really gets into the cliche realm there is Jump in the Fire, and that too is a Mustaine pen song, even if Hetfield did the lyrics.
Wouldn't you think Seek and Destroy is a little, cliche?
Yeah, but I mean, it does fit just the whole mindset of the band and the young people there. I mean, I remember back in the day when, he would introduce it in concert about, getting shit-faced and causing a little senseless destruction, right? I mean, that was it. And it speaks to that sort of mindset.
Well, it's how Kill 'Em All, the progression overall, Kill 'Em All to Ride the Lightning. Kill 'Em All was loaded with, Whiplash. It's not, no one's ever going to confuse that with, the lyrics to Ride the Lightning. It was their first album. They made leaps and bounds. What do you think is the best, and I use that term loosely, what's your favorite Cliff era lyrics? Because it was definitely a different band when Cliff was there. But that era, that Kill, Ride, Master, at least in my interpretation, that was that block of the way they wrote their music, the lyrics. What's your take on that little chapter?
It's a really holy or unholy trilogy, that first three. There's no disputing it. And I mean, my sentimental favorite would probably be Ride the Lightning. I mean, as I said before, Fade to Black is probably the song that really spoke to me. You have Creeping Death, which is really in its way a sort of subtle critique of the God of the Old Testament and organized religion. This is before Hetfield is really getting more personal in his reflections that come out more on the Black Album and the Load. And really, For Whom the Bell Tolls is, although inspired by the Hemingway novel and the movie version, is really a nice sort of implicit critique of war. And so that's probably my favorite of the three, but you can't go wrong.
No, you can't go wrong. It depends what flavor you want. You know, they're all like old friends.
Yeah.
Let's jump ahead a little.
I love that analogy of old friends, by the way, because that's the way I look at every album of theirs that comes out to this day. Is like I get to see my old friends again. And sometimes I'm not as crazy about what they're up to as I was back in the day, but I still always find something in it, that really resonates with me.
I don't want to jump out of order, but I do want to put a little time in on Saint Anger.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, it was a mess then. How much did the whole Saint Anger, some kind of monster documentary, help you interpret some of those lyrics? Because that was a bad period.
Yeah, it really was. You know, that they kept it together enough to have an album and for them to move forward, and that's the real success out of that. I don't think that I spend a lot of ink on Saint Anger in the book, but I do give it some due. Partly, for example, one of the things that comes clear in watching this Some Kind of Monster documentary, right, is that Hetfield leaves for rehab, and so the addiction issue is important there. And so lyrics like "My lifestyle determines my death style" is very important for thinking about the addiction issue. And "Sweet Amber," which is a sort of tongue-in-cheek about drink alcohol, that sort of thing.
Isn't that a Kirk Hammett line though? Your lifestyle determines your death style.
It might be, but it made it into the song. Right?
Yeah, I think that's. We'll have to fact check that, and we'll put that in show notes.
Yeah, that is true, right? That's the one album where they were sharing even lyric writing. Although, the odd thing about that, right, is that you have Kirk Hammett contributing some lyrics, but no guitar solos, right?
Well, the whole operation was upside down, Bill. It was like there was no band. Jason cut out, and I love Jason Newsted. And
yes.
I'm going to share something personally with you, and it sort of ties in. I've been sober since 8/2/06, and the last time I drank alcohol, I sat in my living room, I drank beers, and I watched Some Kind of Monster. And I was like, damn, if Het could do it, and he's this huge guy, I understand where he is coming from, that, Johnny Verno could do this. And, I haven't drank since, but the point was, it was tough being James Hetfield. He talks about going over to he picked those Russian hunting trips over spending time with his family. Was it to get away? Was it to drink the vodka? But that whole Saint Anger, the Shoot Me Again, some of those lyrics, they were raw. That's what I'm trying to say. They were just raw.
What do you think? They are raw, and congratulations to you on your sobriety. We share that in common, as it turns out. I haven't had a drink since 97, just celebrated 25 years of sobriety.
Congratulations to you too.
Yeah. It's been interesting watching Hetfield's journey. As fans know, he relapsed a couple of years ago, and as far as we know, he's back on the beam now. And it'll be interesting to see what lyrics in the future have to say about that. But yeah, he was in a really terrible place emotionally and everything else. And that's a case where Saint Anger, didn't actually yield great lyrics. It yielded something, but it was just a product that they got out there. Although, as you know, Vernal, from talking to lots of fans, there are fans of Metallica for whom that somehow is their favorite album. As there are fans who, Reload is their favorite album. And, so it's amazing how even what we might consider a bad Metallica album is, in some people's estimation, great music and even great lyrics.
Well, it's like with yourself. You discovered them in Ride the Lightning. That was their launching point. Yeah. Even the band to this day, when you go see them live, 3 or 4 songs into the set, James asked the crowd, who's new to the Metallica family? Who is their first show? And it's a fair amount of people. So, hey, we're not here to dispute. The Metallica machine is, is fantastic.
Yep.
Oh, what happened here?
I'm with you. Do you not see me?
No, I hit something.
Okay.
Oh, God. There we go. Okay. So let's pick it up. The Black Album. Would you cover in that album, in the book from the Black Album?
Yeah, so I mean, the Black Album, right, of course, is where Metallica lost a lot of fans and gained a lot of new fans, and a lot of old schoolers thinking that it had gone too commercial at that point. But lyrically, it's in some ways one of the deepest. Enter Sandman aside, there's all kinds of great stuff on there. For example, from Unforgiven, which you really start to see some of Hetfield's autobiography coming through there, the way in which he was resenting the way in which he was raised and the way that people try to put you into a box and deprive you of your authenticity. And we also see a very thinly veiled storytelling about the God that failed and his experience growing up as a Christian Scientist, and the way in which there was all sorts of hypocrisy and misdeeds involved in that, and just other songs that seem really kind of self-reflective and even self-lacerating. The Struggle Within, My Friend of Misery, and then we have other songs about freedom and becoming who you are, like some of the radio hits, Wherever I May Roam and A Wolf and Man. And almost all those songs, I think, in the book get some pretty close line by line analysis.
Are there any happy Metallica songs? And I don't say that derogatory, like it's all gloom and doom. I don't want to stereotype, but is there anything upbeat, a positive message, or?
I think even the songs that seem very negative and dark do have a positive message and inspiring hope. But you know what? It's tough to come up with good songs that are happy in almost any genre. Most songs, maybe about love, and love is sort of happy, and you can think of Nothing Else Matters along those lines. And that's a much better than average love song. But yeah, it's tough to come up with something that's straight out happy metal,
Yeah, I know.
Nothing but a good, you're into Poison, Nothing But a Good Time at that point, right?
And you're right. There is a lot of positives that come out of this. It's just, it's darkened with, how is Hetfield going to growl and be happy?
I guess I know you're a big Van Halen fan. There's lots of Van Halen songs that have a kind of a happy feel to them.
Van Halen. Are you a Van Halen fan?
I'm not a big Van Halen fan, but I grew up with guys who were big Van Halen fans, and so I know it all.
Oh, well, for part 2, let's do Van Halen, the DLR years.
Well, I don't know if you've ever talked to this guy, but Greg Renoff. Have you talked to him?
Several times. We hung out down at Rockin' Pod. Yeah. I'm good friends with Greg, and he did a hell of a job.
His book, Van Halen Rising, is just an incredible book.
It's beyond incredible. It's a unicorn for the amount and then the follow-up, the Ted Templeman book.
That's a great one too. Yeah.
The trilogy. It was the Greg Renoff Van Halen Rising, the Templeman book, and the Noel Monk Running with the Devil.
Okay, I don't know that one.
Noel Monk was the manager of Van Halen.
Oh, okay.
He worked for Warner Brothers, and he came off the road with the Sex Pistols, and his next job was to be the road manager for Van Halen. Never even knew the band, who it was. Yeah. He met him when he flew to Chicago for the opening night. By the end of the tour, he became their manager and was their manager through the end of 1984 when the band broke up, and he never had more than a 30-day contract.
Wow.
But his book is fantastic. So it's the trilogy.
Yeah.
But Greg, you did you reach out to Greg on this?
Yeah. I had read Van Halen Rising mostly because I have friends who were big Van Halen fans, and they were talking about it. And Greg, like me, is actually a PhD.
Yeah.
And he's a historian. And so he brought a historian's chops to researching the early years of Van Halen. And he tells the story of it just incredibly. And so I was just really hooked. And I reached out to him, telling him how much I liked the book. And, we have, at least an email or Twitter friendship. And my book, The Meaning of Metallica, is actually published by the same publisher who published his. So there was some connection there as well.
That's ironic. I know those stories inside and out, and you may not be familiar with those stories. But for me, knowing all those stories, like he talks about the backyard parties. Yeah. Now, as a fan, you always heard about these backyard parties. But then in the Van Halen Rising book, he actually had police reports and accounts of people that owned the house that were at these parties and actually filled in the timeline blanks. You always heard these stories, but then to hear firsthand accounts of this, it was my favorite band of all time. I have a photo finish between my top three bands: Van Halen, Rush, and Metallica.
There you go. Hard to go wrong there.
Yeah. So, anything else on the? Would you do a part two?
Oh, I would do a part two. I cover all the albums to one degree or another, even the Load albums. I'm probably like a lot of older fans who are not all that enthused about a lot of the songs, but like a lot of fans, I could collapse the two into one album that I like very much. And there's some great lyrical reflections. So some of my favorite lyrics from Metallica, and certainly on the issues of addiction and potential sobriety, at least, come on the Load album. So that The House That Jack Built on Load, and then we have Low Man's Lyric and Fixer on Reload. So those all get pretty close attention in the book, but not every song does. And so one of the things that I say in the introduction to the book, and again at the end, I give the reader my personal email address and my Twitter handle, and hopefully you can make those available on your website too. And I say, you read the book, get in touch with me, send me an email, send me a DM through Twitter. Tell me what I left out, tell me what you think I got wrong, and let's have a conversation.
You're opening a doorbell.
Well, I mean, it's a great thing, in the sense of, like, I tell you the story just now about Greg Renoff. Things come out of it that way, and I read a lot of books, and sometimes I'll contact the author, and sometimes I hear back, like I did with Greg, and sometimes I don't. And if you're contacting Stephen King, that's one thing, but I'm no Stephen King. Contact me, and as long as you're not being a total jerk, I'm glad to have a conversation, and maybe a second book will come out of that. So I don't talk about the Outlaw Torn. I know that's a lot of Load era fans' favorite. I don't talk about the Cthulhu songs very much. I mean, I'd love to hear from people who think, you really missed it with that, leaving that out, or the way you interpreted that. Of course, I'd love to hear from somebody too who says, hey, you really got it right. But either way, get in touch with me.
One of my favorite songs and you're right, those two loads could be compacted into one, but like a song like Bleeding Me.
Yeah.
It's just, I was lucky enough to see them perform that song live, Albany, New York, and back on St. Anger tour. Yeah. But, I love that song, but that song's different than a lot of those songs on those two albums. Yeah. It doesn't fit in with it. It's a great song. I don't mind the loads. It is what it is. Hey, our band's still releasing stuff. Magnetic, and I like the Magnetic choice you did. Well, you had the Judas Kiss in there. That's a great song.
Yeah, so if I just say something about that, right? I mean, analyzing the Judas Kiss, I mean, I really see a lot of the lyrics there speaking to perhaps a sense of betrayal that Hetfield, the band, feels, when a lot of fans did jump ship on them, and the doubt that they could ever really do anything worthwhile again. And I see a song that I like very much. It may not be the deepest lyrically, but it speaks to me, Broken, Beaten, Scarred, as in a sense responding to that, right? Where you rise again after you fall. And you show your scars. To me, that even in simple form, really shows a lot of what Metallica's lyrics have been about from the beginning, right? Showing your pain, your anger, and trying to own it and move past it if you can.
We're talking with Bill Irwin, the author of the book Metallica, The Meaning of Metallica, Ride the Lyrics. Just came out this week over on Tuesday the 19th. Bill, where could people get this?
Well, they can get anywhere they get books. I suppose. I don't like to tell people where they should get anything, particularly Metallica fans. But if you know that Amazon website, I'm sure they have it. Barnes and Noble, maybe your local bookstore, your local small bookstore. There are fewer and fewer of those. They're going the way of record stores these days, with very few of them left. Not quite as marginalized as record stores, but get it anywhere you can and read it and get in touch with me.
Before we go, I do want to touch on some of your other releases. You do a pop culture series. You've done books on Seinfeld, The Simpsons, and The Matrix.
Yeah.
What are those about? Is it within the same? Tell us about them.
Yeah, sure. So this goes all the way back to the late 90s. My day job, right, is I'm a philosophy professor at a small college in Pennsylvania, King's College. And when I started teaching, I was not that much older than some of my students. And so I'd reference things in class like Seinfeld or The Simpsons, and everybody knew it. And I could tie it into something unfamiliar in philosophy and try to bring them along that way. And it ended up being something that I wasn't the only one doing. And so my philosophy professor friends and I would compile these books like Seinfeld in philosophy, The Simpsons in philosophy. And we had a really big hit with The Matrix in philosophy shortly after that film came out in 1999. That one made it all the way to the bestseller list on the New York Times, as you had mentioned. And one of the books in the series, this is going back to like 2005 at this point, is actually Metallica in philosophy. So if someone wants the philosophical spin on Metallica, they could pick that up. It only goes as far as St. Anger, but that's pretty good.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yep. So this is technically my second book on Metallica. Oh. That one is an edited collection where I wrote one of the chapters, and I had 18, 19 of my philosophy buddies writing the others. And back in at a certain point, it was hard to find Metallica fans among philosophy professors, but not as much anymore. And that's an ongoing series of books. We just had some recent titles on the science fiction show The Expanse and philosophy. Basically a whole bunch of ones on the Marvel movies and philosophy, and just always trying to connect philosophy and pop culture in a way to spread both around.
Well, let's talk about the Seinfeld one.
Yeah.
Why Seinfeld? Because that's one of my Rushmore of comedies.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
that's way up there. Seinfeld might be my all-time favorite. Well, I mean, and Curb Your
oh,
Enthusiasm goes in the same direction, right? Even
yeah,
more so.
yeah.
All the sort of picky little questions, like is soup a meal? Is it rational to do the opposite? All these kind of things, which they exploit to just great comedic effect, are the kind of things that philosophy and philosophers have been talking about in a sort of boring way for 2,500 years. So to find something like Seinfeld and be able to link it in a fun, interesting way with something that's been dry was a bit of a success.
Those evergreen moments, you
Yeah.
could keep going back to it, and I feel you either get it or don't get it, and once you get it,
Oh yeah.
to
It
this
was
day,
amazing that Seinfeld had the mass appeal it did. In some ways, it's such an East Coast, New York based show, but people got it all over the world.
when you watch it now, it's refreshing to see what you don't see now. It was just the tip of cell phones. And
Yeah.
to chase down a payphone, or I told Bill off camera that professionally I own hot dog vending carts up here in Rochester, and the soup Nazi approach and theory is true.
Yeah.
It is true. I will, for years, I ran a weekend night cart outside the bars in the college district of Rochester. We'd have a line 30, 40 deep.
Yeah.
And by the time you get up to the order and serve area, if you don't have your stuff together, and you got to go. You got to go next.
No hot dog for you.
So love Seinfeld.
Yeah,
Simpsons.
yeah.
Why the Simpsons? Why the
Oh,
animation?
it was the same kind of thing. I mean, at a certain point in time, I think The Simpsons in Philosophy came out in 2000 or 2001. And at that time, every college kid knew The Simpsons, even if they weren't big fans. You couldn't avoid it. It was the closest thing to a common language. And The Simpsons has just always been written well. I mean, at least back in the day, it was always written very literately and with great wit and observation. And so it was just a natural pairing.
Yeah. All right. Well, again, the book, The Meaning of Metallica, Ride to Lyrics, it's out now. Bill, it's nice meeting you, man. We're cut from the same cloth.
I feel like that for sure, Verno.
I want you to stay on the air after we sign off. There's a couple things I want to talk to you about, but
Awesome.
Again, thank you, and take care of yourself, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You're welcome. All right. Fascinating, man. Just what kind of shows did you see down in New York?
Yeah. Well, so I mentioned L'Amour. I don't know if you're familiar with.
L'Amour, CBGBs.
I mean, it was just legendary.
What else was down there? There's something on the tip of my tongue.
Roseland.
Roseland.
Yeah, Roseland, and I'm blanking on some of the other sort of smaller places in the city. But in New Rochelle, which is Westchester and not far from where I was in Yonkers, it was like one of the first places they had the COVID cases. There was a place called Streets where you saw all kinds of, they might be a cover band or they might be an original band. Like, so in Streets, which probably held 200 or 300 people, I saw Nuclear Assault. I was a big fan of Nuclear Assault at the time. Hardcore, what's the name of the band? The Agnostic Front. Great, show from them.
Yeah, Danny Lilker's from town up here.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, he's from Rochester. He actually runs, there's a big record store there. You're talking about record stores. We still have several of them. The Great House of Guitars in Rochester, 3 stories. It's legendary. We have the Record Archive. In the Record Archive, they have a back area, a stage and a bar. And twice a month, they have Metal Tuesdays. And there's a big metal area there. Danny Lilker, he runs it, a couple other guys. And, there's still a metal movement up here.
Awesome.
Yeah, so Wilker's up there. We had the Penny Arcade that you guys, similar.
Yeah,
A lot of guys I talk to, they talk, and I'm fascinated with New York.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
just one of the guys that does the shows with us, Metal Walt.
yeah.
He's from New Jersey.
Oh,
And-
you know what a great place in New York was that, I talked about being like Beavis and Butthead. There was a place called the Rising Sun in Yonkers, walking distance from my house, and Metallica and Raven actually played there, Kill 'Em All for One tour.
Yeah.
And I was listening to it must have been the episode you just sent me about Kill 'Em All. One of the guys was talking about, maybe both of them talked about the warehouse, where Anthrax was, and Metallica stayed, and that kind of thing. And one of the guys mentioned a band called Black Lace. I don't know if you've ever heard of them.
No.
So they were from Yonkers and the Bronx, and TT Quick would play there. TT Quick and Black Lace were like the two big bands at that time.
Mark
Going
Turnillo.
further back in time, Twisted Sister would play there. But anyway, we love Black Lace. And check out the first Black Lace album if you can come across it. They had a really hot female singer, Marianne Scandifio, and she could really sing, and she was, eye candy on top of it.
Yeah, yeah.
And a really, it was poppy metal, I guess, but it was ballsy in its way. No synthesizers or any of that.
Mm-hmm.
So my friend Joe and I were in love with Marianne Scandifio. She must have been 19 or 20 at the time. We're 14 or 15.
Yeah, yeah.
And the drinking age, I think at that time, was still 18. And so, we'd go stand outside the Rising Sun, and these 16-year-old girls would get in, but no Beavis and Butthead characters like us would get in. And they'd have the signs up for what bands were coming, and my friend Joe stole the Black Lace sign, and he had it hanging up in his room. And I was just thinking about that today, hearing them mention, because they must have been pissed. They must have paid money to make that sign and display it. And meanwhile, this idiot kid, they didn't even know had stolen it,
Yeah.
So,
where's that sign now?
it's probably gone. Yeah, I doubt he held on to it. The other thing that's missing is my buddy Joe's painted vest. He had the Queensryche EP was painted on the back of his chest, and we're always still talking about what happened to the vest. I tell him I stole it, and I'm gonna show up at the next reunion with it and all that kind of stuff.
Do you still go to shows when you can, or?
Yeah. It's been a while since I've been to a metal show, but pandemic and all that. You know what I'm going to see pretty soon? There's a place out here in Pennsylvania called the Sherman Theater, and Richie Blackmore is doing his medieval lute music or whatever there. Yeah, so I'm gonna go check that out. What the hell,
Now, where are you in Pennsylvania?
Near Scranton.
Wow.
Which I guess was the next stop on the tour after Buffalo. I remember hearing you, talking about.
Yeah. It was, they got snowed in. I don't know if you heard the John Bush Armored Saint one. Well,
yeah, I think that maybe that's what I was, or maybe you played a clip of it, or maybe you talked about it. I forget.
But Scranton was. The guy, like I said, the guy I do the show with, one of my correspondents, Metal Walt, that's his air name. He lives like 15 minutes from Dingbats in New Jersey.
Okay.
So in November, and Walt, that's a great episode. You should go back and listen to his first episode. He's a professional bootlegger.
Oh, yeah.
He's been bootlegging shows for like 35 years.
Oh, wow.
That's how I met him.
Yeah.
And we've become friends, and now he's part of the show. But he goes to shows all the time.
Oh, yeah.
All the time. And we went down to see Raven in November, did a special with them. We're hanging out with them on their tour bus. It's a fucking Winnebago with. And they're loading up there. It was so not rock and roll. Right. Felt bad because we did the interview, then we were going around the corner to get Italian. Right. And as we were walking out, their catered food was coming in, and we should have brought them to dinner.
Yeah, really. You get a chance to take
well,
Raven to dinner. You should, right?
We should have like, hey guys, I go get a real meal. But yeah, I go down there all the time, and we go right through Scranton.
Oh,
When is
cool.
that Blackmore show?
I'm sorry.
When is
it? Let me take a look at the calendar. It's June. No, it's May. What is it? May 20th.
What day is that? What day of the week?
A Friday.
I may have it free now, but with my
Yeah,
bookings, because so he's still doing that medieval stuff with his wife and playing whatever he plays.
Yeah, it's mostly just an excuse to get together with a friend of mine who's just a huge Blackmore fan, and that kind of thing. And the show is near enough by,
Well, what I'm saying is Metal Walt's a huge Purple Blackmore.
Oh.
And a buddy of mine here who moved back from Vegas, who's going through gig withdrawal, he's a huge Richie fan too. And
tell him it should be a fun show.
I'll put it on the calendar. So, all right, bro. Thank you. Stay in touch.
So Verno, I got to ask you.
Yeah.
So do you do meetings and that kind of thing, or you're not in the program?
Oh no, the drink. No, I did when. It's funny. It's not funny, but I was going through a divorce.
Yeah. That
led me to sobriety.
Oh, okay.
That I did a few AAs, but I found the only time I was thinking about drinking was when I was there.
Yeah. Right,
I mean, I did some outpatient, and you know what my problem, Bill, was? It was like a just an immature frat boy. I
can identify.
I drank, but it's not like I woke up drinking. Everyone's path is different. I'm not minimizing that, but if I didn't have one, I was fine.
Yeah.
If I had one beer, I'd have 4 down before I would even feel anything. Then you smoke a little weed, and then it would just be but yeah, I'm lucky.
Yeah,
I haven't.
No, good for you getting together. There are all kinds of paths to getting there too. My dad, at some point just quit the way that you did, but I ended up going the meeting route, and that's been good for me.
Do you ever have urges now, or?
Very rarely, the thought will come, but it passes.
Yeah, because you get older and you're like, I don't have time for that.
Exactly. You wonder how you ever did, right?
Isn't that something?
And just to deal with the physical pain of a hangover, I couldn't take it anymore.
Bill, you're exactly right, because at the end, I remember one of the last times the Hetfield story, but it was like 3 weeks before I got sober. I went to a Sammy Hagar concert, and that's when he had the traveling Cabo Wobble thing.
Oh, wow.
Where the lawn section of Darien Lake Amphitheater was all those cantinas with the Cabo Wobble tequila, and that stuff was like blue Kool-Aid. And I just... I knew I was getting divorced, and I knew my kids at the time, I have 3 boys, they were young and they were coming with me. And, it was 16 years ago, whatever it was, 15, 16, whatever that math is.
Yeah.
And I knew I had a lead, and they don't even remember it. They're like,
well, better. Right.
Like I quit smoking cigarettes. I quit weed. I quit everything.
Yeah, good for you.
Yeah, I couldn't do it now. It's just...
Yeah, some people can. They just keep going. It's amazing. I mean, you look at Lemmy and those kind of guys, I don't know how they keep going, but...
Well, that's the old transmission fluid theory.
Oh, what's the transmission?
Yeah, you just keep adding, and you don't disrupt it. Like if you have
that's funny. I never heard that.
If you have an older car, you never drain the tranny fluid. You just always keep adding it because you don't want to
sober up, right?
Yeah, you don't want to loosen anything. That old shit's keeping it together.
Yeah. It's like cleaning out the fryer in a restaurant.
Oh yeah. What was if you don't mind me asking, what was your story? It was just drinking too much, and you just knew.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, I hadn't thought about this in a while, but as you say it, I mean, part of the catalyst was a bad breakup for me too. I wasn't married at the time, but it was like, shit, I can't keep this together. And she can't stand me anymore. And she indulged a lot of crap. And I just, I was at the point where I knew I really was not gonna make it as a person if I didn't stop. And in my case, I was fortunate to have my father as a role model in that case, because he had been a pretty bad drunk until I was about 10 or so, and he quit. And so that was always in the back of my mind that listen, this probably isn't a good long run strategy for you.
Well, thankfully, you saw the end of the road.
Yeah,
a quarter of the way down the road.
That's right.
So 97. So you're 25.
Yeah, it's 25 years, which is kind of a landmark.
Goes fast, doesn't it?
Yeah, it sure does. Sure does.
All right, my friend. Well, best of luck with it. Are you getting? Is there a pulse on it? Are people reaching out? Or are you doing the best you can?
I mean, like you, there have been some nice podcast requests, and I've been, doing some of that, and so we'll see. Hopefully, it'll get some traction.
One thing I've learned by doing all this, my quick story. I studied radio and TV broadcasting and worked in the industry for about 6 years. Then I got out of it and I met the girl that I ended up marrying. Long story, pivoted into the hot dog cart business.
Right.
But a lot of what I do with my business with the carts is a lot of branding. My late father was in advertising for 35 years.
Oh, wow.
My sister's in publishing. It's in the family DNA. Yeah. So after the kids were all raised, I always listen to podcasts. I'm just fascinated by media. Right. And then when this platform started coming up, I ran with it. And it's just been a progression. And we just celebrated our 3rd year. I used to have a partner, but he doesn't do it anymore. So it's just me.
Yeah.
And we just introduced a brand new website that's designed for the eventual goal of monetization. And what I'm trying to say is these platforms like I do and some of just like anything else, there's good ones. And then there's like really Wayne's World. And
wow, I got to tell you a story. Your Metal Mayhem. Do you know there's a Heavy Metal Mayhem too?
Yeah.
That guy is not good.
Yeah. Well,
he's a nice guy, but I was listening to that thinking that's the one I'm going on. And I'm like, holy shit, this can't be. And then it was like last week when you sent the link, we were going to do it last week, and it's from John. I'm like, who the hell is John? This guy's name is Mike. And so I had to go back and double check, and I was very relieved to find it was you and not the other guy.
Yeah. We take a very pro approach.
Yeah.
Because we are part of the media, because it's not like the big rock stations are reaching out to the rock guys and even the bands, take the huge bands out of the loop, but it's all of us that get the word out. And I do a radio show on Metal Devastation Radio, and they're worldwide, and they have jocks all over the world, and they handle, it's a platform. So when I reach out to, just today, I just secured an interview with Ted Nugent.
Awesome.
Politics aside, he has a new one coming out in the spring. He's got a summer tour. We're doing Tesla in 3 weeks. We reach out to people and it builds. And the more you do, the bigger it gets. And, everything from, graphics to everything. Yeah. So it works. It will, people will hear it, and just keep in mind that, it does work. It is worth your time.
No. Listen, even if nobody listened to it, I had a hell of a time talking with you. But I'm sure you have, a good number of listeners, and it'll pay off in that sense too.
It's a game. It's a game where, see, now when I get this, you know, outside of editing and everything, it's how do you market it?
Yeah.
And it's all SEO, and it's all, it's so amazing. And I work with a podcast coach, and the amount of information, Bill, that I have learned, it truly is just keywords, and this whole thing is filled with keywords.
Right.
Who writes this? The publisher?
What are you looking at? The back cover?
Yeah, like.
Oh no, you know who? I'm trying to say. Oh, is that the press release?
Yeah, the back, the first. Yeah.
Yeah. No, so that's a collaboration between me and the publisher, right?
You know, I'm just learning it, and it's just amazing. And you get this out to the people. People will seek it. They'll find it. So.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll let you get going. It's
great to connect with you, Verno. So good luck with it going forward, and hope we'll stay in touch.
Yeah, stay in touch, Bill. Appreciate it.
Cool. Have a good night.